Well guys, our Japan videos have come to an end, but before we move on from Japan, we wanted to do a couple of last videos, sit down videos. This one is going to be Japan versus South Korea.
This is in no particular order or category. We're just gonna go with the flow and compare what we experienced and seen. Alright, the first thing we're going to compare is the transportation. For me, when we were going to Japan, for some reason I had in my mind that it's like one of the most advanced places for public transportation, which it is, but coming from South Korea, we're a little bit underwhelmed.
It certainly was not what we had in mind at all. Like, it wasn't bad systems, but it just wasn't this out of this world space travel type situation that we had it made up to be in our minds.
Yeah.
We're not going to go into too much detail on the travel because we are doing a whole video on the Japan rail system, the JR pass and all of that, so we won't go into too much detail on the transport, but suffice to say Korea was just easier, more cost effective, more intuitive, probably better facilities on the most part, and yeah, we'd probably give a point to South Korea on this one.
Besides the language barrier, which we'll come to that soon, it was definitely a lot more affordable, I think, in South Korea. And even with the bullet trains, I think the bullet trains was very easy to book, an easy online transaction. You turn up on the day, you get on the train, no big deal. Whereas in Japan,
there's a whole story.
There's a whole story
in another video.
Yeah, so Korea, 1 point, right here. In South Korea, you can get a public transportation card. You can just load as much money as you want on there and you can use that card for buses and trains. Whereas in Japan, you need to go and physically buy a ticket, print the ticket out every day and use that ticket.
In South Korea, it's called a T-Money card, and that gets you on like everything. You catch the subways, you catch the trains, you catch the buses, all with the same card. In Japan, there's different ticket stations for different train lines and different everything for different everything. There's just like a million different rail companies and rail lines, and none of them really talk to each other, and you get to a certain station and you need to keep going, then you got to buy another ticket.
You can buy a T-Money card at any of the convenience stores as well, and there's one like everywhere, so it's very easy to get these cards.
It's like one every 50 to 100 meters in the bigger cities.
Yeah.
The next thing we wanted to talk about was how costly they each are, and we found that South Korea was in general significantly cheaper. According to our expense tracking app, we spent about $158 per day in South Korea.
Australian.
For everything Australian. And in Japan it was up around $188. So it's about $30 extra per day to stay in Japan than South Korea. Both are quite expensive, but Japan obviously takes the cake there.
So in South Korea, there's a lot of street food markets everywhere. Like you just step outside of your door and there'll be street food markets everywhere, quite affordable. A lot of baked goods, like bakeries, that's pretty affordable as well. But you can live on street food there. There's like street food everywhere. And then in terms of accommodation, that was quite affordable as well. Japan was a little bit more on the costly side, and we couldn't find, we know that there's definitely a lot of street food places in Japan, but we didn't come across as many as there were in South Korea.
Yeah, nowhere near as many.
Yeah.
But the main cost difference, I would say, is probably accommodation, because we did find that in Japan the groceries were quite affordable just to do your own shopping and make your own stuff at home.
Yes.
So.
We noticed that in Japan the smoking laws are quite strict, which is really good. So you won't get a lot of people smoking on the streets and that kind of thing. It's quite rare from what we've seen anyway. Whereas in South Korea, there are quite a few people that smoke on the streets. It's not, I still wouldn't say it's as bad as when we were in Europe. I still think that that takes the cake, but it's definitely a lot more popular. Even when there's like, we would walk past streets where there were clearly signs saying no smoking, and there would be like multiple people smoking there as well, which can kind of ruin your trip if you are sensitive to smoke. If you have asthma, lung problems, that kind of thing, it could possibly be a deal breaker for you.
Or if you're just not used to it, like
Yeah.
coming from Australia, smoking is very
Yeah.
alienated these days, so
Yeah.
we're not exposed to it that much, so it can be a bit of a shocker. But
Yeah.
on other smells, there is some quite funky smells around both Japan and South Korea.
I would say more in South Korea
Yeah.
than Japan.
And more in Busan than Seoul.
Yes,
And
definitely.
I don't know if it has to do with all of their markets and things and the way that they just kind of like wash all the food waste, or the, not necessarily food waste, but even just like fish juices and stuff down the drains and stuff. Maybe it's to do with that, but
Yeah.
yeah, it can be quite stinky in some areas.
It can definitely be quite stinky, I agree. Still not as bad as some of the other countries that we've been to. But yeah, in terms of smells and that kind of thing, South Korea was a lot more than Japan.
Yeah,
But
Japan.
won't ruin your trip. Like, it's not like
Just
that
hold
bad.
your breath while you walk past a
Yeah.
drain, and then you're all good again.
And alleyways. I've noticed the alleyways
Yeah,
are like a
a
little
bit
bit
smelly.
stinky as well.
Yeah.
So, but Japan is,
Quite clean.
it's quite clean. Like, I wouldn't, it wasn't that
Except
bad.
for Tokyo. Tokyo was a bit of a mess.
Really?
Oh, yeah, Tokyo was
Oh
pretty
yeah,
grubby.
here and there
It
is
was
a bit
pretty
like,
grubby.
yeah, it wasn't that bad. But
Yeah, pretty grubby.
in terms of like entertainment and things to do, we like outdoor activities. We like hiking. We like, mountainous sceneries.
Any scenery.
Any sceneries. We're very like outdoorsy, and we feel like South Korea catered more to us for that. Especially in Seoul, there's like these incredible mountains.
Even the beach.
And there's a lot of stairs. Like everywhere you go, there is so many stairs, so you will definitely lose weight when you're there. So eat all the baked goods that you want, because quite the hiking culture.
I did not lose weight while I was
Quite.
Don't listen to Sarah.
Quite the hiking culture. There's actually a lot of stuff to do, especially in Seoul. Like there's things to do in Busan as well, but particularly Seoul, we were there for almost 2 weeks, and we didn't have enough time there to like do all the stuff that we wanted to do. So
Japan also has quite a few things to do, but a lot of them that we were finding were like gardens and castles and things, which are nice, but especially in the climate that we were there in, it was just kind of a little bit like you've seen them all, because it's just so hot out there, and you just feel like you're just dying to see another castle kind of thing. But
yeah.
it does have some cool quirky things to do, like that cup noodle factory we went to.
Yeah, that was cool.
and-
In terms of like free things to do, I would say there's more in Seoul. I feel like in South Korea, you step out of your apartment or your hotel or whatever, and it's like busy. Everyone's out. There's markets everywhere. And Japan does have this level of like nightlife, especially in Tokyo. But in all the other places, it wasn't as crazy as I feel like South Korea was. Like you step out the door and you can be out there for hours until midnight, just busy,
Yeah.
looking at stuff. So yeah, a lot of markets in South Korea, a lot of hiking, outdoorsy stuff. Probably similar in Japan, but again, we never really came across a lot of street foods and a lot of like markets with clothes and a lot of, never really come across that.
I feel like the difference is in South Korea, specifically talking about Seoul and Busan, is you can walk outside and pretty much just entertain yourself for the day without much of a plan. Whereas in Japan, you kind of have to try and get some things together before going out to stay entertained.
Yeah, I think Japan is like more similar to Australia than like South Korea is. Like we can go to Japan and there's culture there, but it'll be easier as an Australian to sort of like,
Yeah,
you know,
to fit
whereas
in.
South Korea is like, boom, the culture's in your face,
Yeah.
like it's right there, which we kind of prefer
Yeah.
a little bit more, I would say. But both countries are cool though, depends on what you like.
So the next thing we had was this sort of diversity, friendliness, language barrier kind of category where we think that in Japan, definitely a lot more tourists in Japan.
Which, like, again, for us, oh my gosh, this is leaning to South Korea so much. This is so bad. But I think it's because we're travelers.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that go to Japan from Australia, they haven't, I wouldn't say all, but like people that we know maybe haven't traveled the world. In South Korea, we notice a lot of times all of these like tourist attractions and tourist places, there weren't that many people.
No.
We were like by ourselves, or if it was like, you know, busy, it wasn't that many people. We were still sort of, we could take photos and,
Put it
you
this
know,
way, we would stand out wherever we
we
went.
would definitely stand out, and everyone would like look at us, but they were so friendly, so nice. And in Japan, they're also very friendly, very nice people, always willing to help you out, which is really nice.
Shout out to the computer guy that gave us a free diagnosis.
Yes.
Laptop.
So nice, always willing to help. Just the sweetest people for both, I would say, South Korea and Japan. Very sweet people, very nice people. But yeah, a lot more tourists in Japan. In terms of the language barrier, I would say it was just as hard in both. Like, equally, would you say? I don't know.
I'd say probably equal.
Probably equal, yeah.
But I feel like
I think we expected Japan to have less of a language barrier because of how many tourists we saw there.
yeah, probably the worst we might have had would have been in Busan, I think. Just because it's not quite as advanced as everywhere else. There's not quite as many aids, like, you know how you, when you're ordering food, you can just order on the little electronic kiosk that has English on it instead of trying to talk to a person and translate yourself. But stuff like that, but in general it was all pretty easy.
Yeah. In the beginning, I think when we were in South Korea, we sort of hit like a little, we were like, whoa,
Yeah.
okay,
No one
this
speaks
is
English.
really, yeah, we were like, oh man, how do we get out of this? We would walk in circles, guys, trying to get like the train or whatever until David sort of caught on, and then I just followed him.
So to wrap it up, we just kind of wanted to give a little bit of a summary on Tokyo versus Seoul, because they're the two iconic cities in each place. Definitely both met the expectations for just what we've seen around, what we've heard, the busyness, I don't know, it's kind of chaotic in both, to me anyway. But I think Japan maybe a little bit more so. A little bit more densely populated.
I think the nightlife in Tokyo versus Seoul is also different to what, like from our experience, I feel like the nightlife in Tokyo was very like nightlife, like, you know, there was like, I don't know, people partying, like that sort of nightlife. Versus in Seoul, it was more markets, street food,
Just
you know,
like
shopping.
young people
Shopping.
gathering and
Yeah, we never really, whereas in Tokyo it was a bit like, we saw some things. We're like,
It was kind of a little bit, like, we're conservative people, but it
Yeah.
was kind of like a little bit, felt a bit dark, like that really kind of
like people like,
spooky type.
they like
vibe.
movies, they're into like their movies, I
Yeah.
guess, and like anime and that kind of thing, which is not really us. We probably prefer more of like the street food and the markets with the clothes and like that sort of nightlife. But it depends on what you like. Like that's what we like, that's what we prefer. If you're more like us, then you're probably gonna like South Korea more. If you are the party nightlife, that type of person, then you might like Tokyo more. They're both nice, clean cities. Both maybe slightly grubby here and there, but I wouldn't say it's like that bad at all. It's like pretty good. I don't know why, but Seoul lacks a lot of rubbish bins for some reason. It's like not a lot of rubbish bins around, whereas in Tokyo we noticed there was a lot more. But yeah, I don't know. Both nice, cool. One is more, I would say, for like outdoorsy sort of people culture, and then the other is more like movie, anime. In terms of free stuff to do and being on a budget, I like South Korea.
Yeah, overall, everything considered, I would definitely go back to South Korea before I went back to Japan.
Yeah. But don't let this video put you off Japan. Go, see for yourself. Nara is so cute with all the little deers and that kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff to do. Don't let this video put you off going to see Japan. This is our perspective, and as we said before, maybe a lot of people that have been to Japan haven't been to South Korea, so maybe put South Korea on your bucket list and go to Seoul and check it out for yourself. And yeah, and this video was not balanced at all. I thought it was gonna be balanced.
But it is what it is.
It was not balanced at all. Alright guys, well that is it for this video. We hope that you enjoyed it. We hope that you will now put South Korea on your bucket list if you didn't have it on your bucket list before. And yeah.
If there's anything that we missed out, feel free to ask us in the comments below. We'll answer your questions there. But for now, we're signing off.
We'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
All right.